Space. Space is vast, lofty dialogue that makes no sense. Space is so vast that ships go fast. Space ship. Right. You get a freelancer, you get a freelancer, and you get a freelancer. Everyone gets a freelancer. Everyone gets a freelancer because Star Citizen is an alpha, and as an alpha, it can't seem to keep its intestines inside of its body. And thus, with a dangling uterus and prolapsed anus, it gives one of its rotten fingers as a gift. That, my friends, is freelancer. Frankly, I don't know how I'm gonna top this paragraph, but basically, due to the 30k error and infinite loading screen, now everyone gets this as a compensation and a workaround. I do say, as a ship, it's okay, but you know what I would rather like? A finished fucking game! I used to think that they gave the ship to plebs like me who dared to only spend the minimum amount to get access to this monstrosity by picking up the Alpha Mustang. And now after they redone it, after they removed the walking area inside the ship itself, this was to say, we're sorry. But nope, they don't give a shit about a customer like myself, and the fact that I can't enjoy their expertly crafted template placeholder box mission, no, I can just fuck off. Anyways then, let's dissect this gift horse. It's ugly as shit, like a Rottweiler that munched on a whole wasp nest. Now lumpy and mumpy and grumpy as everything's inflated like a balloon due to the sheer stupidity. The exterior of the ship is so unnecessarily angled that it raises more questions than answers. Now let's be frank here, its aerodynamic capability is that of a brick that you took an angle grinder to. Sure, it's better than nothing, but still it would fall and make a permanent crater on a planet. So then why bother smoothing out edges? Really? Do you know how hard it is to develop and then use the tooling for making such panels? Seriously, why then just not take an example from 20th century Bob Simple tank and just strap sheet metal to it and call it a day? I have a feeling that whoever designed this thing hated the engineers with passion. But in all for nonsense aside, overall a spaceship that carries one of the Robert's previous game names. Boy, is this shit ugly! I mean, Robbie Bobby, what the fuck has your company made? Is this intentional, or you just don't care? Well, seeing how this was painstakingly put together by some artist, I'm thinking this is the former. Still, if you look at the comparative narrow angle shots with a human standing next to it, the scale really hits you. Well, actually not only that, but also getting into the beast is quite the journey. Take the back door, side door, or the roof hatch. Well, whichever orifice you choose, the experience is certainly unique. If you're like me and you always take the back door for the full extent of the entry, you will always be taken aback by how many drugs you could stash. I mean, box missions. How many box missions you could carry this monstrosity? Yes. Though, however, I noticed that in comparison, at least in trading capacity, it doesn't really reflect how much stuff and wealth you can carry with it. But yeah, well, still, you can still stick a golf cart in it. Oh, probably. So, yeah, you could travel to another system and... Oh, wait, Star Citizen only has one. Well, okay, you could travel to your neighbor's planet and show off how nerdy and lame you are. Then perhaps you could invite him for a boys' sleepover with 2 unlucky slaves and then take sensual and very cramped showers. However, I didn't find any toilets, so... yoink! Once clean, the crew may find it important to sit down, and the cockpit, well, it's not exactly scenic or very visible above or below, but let's say there are those newfangled cameras that could help you land this massive space truck. Otherwise, I think I won't be the only one using the docking pad as the elbow drop target. Otherwise, the interior is very boring, much like the outside. I don't know about you, but if I think of a utility ship like Nostromo or whatever from the old movies, even those manage to look exciting, while this is just bland. And remind me, how much do people pay for this? $110! Yeah, then you better have the blandest of tastes to not complain about the looks there, mate. Still, the ship has the turreted weapons on the side that are quite menacing and rockets underneath, so if not moving quickly, maybe it'll punch really well. And it does indeed. What I find quite nice, yet ultimately a waste of time, is the manned turret, and instead I rather have it turned into another pilot-controlled weapon for extra damage. But I guess you gotta get those fanboys somehow. And multi-crew sounds on paper like a cool thing, but if Elite had taught me anything, it's that the space nerd dads for some weird reason don't like making friends and constantly make comments like, "What friends? I know none of these friends you talk about." So let's not kid ourselves, you probably don't think about the fact that you need to make friends in order to make that turret not be a waste of time. And the friends that you do actually have, you most likely only share one thing in common: beer. And not a silly video game where you buy spaceships for real world money for actual real cost that would buy you a car. But let not my snarky experience from Elite translate to your bestest non-video game in the world. Still, the person who chooses to go for the gunner seat will be immersed into the most deliberate Star Wars gunner seat I've ever seen. The nostalgia exploitation here is so hard that if it was a person, it would be that guy who still dresses like he's 10 back in 70s or 80s. As for the movement, well, in the current state of 3.10.penis.cunt edition.chungus alpha, it's basically a freighter. Well, kind of. I mean, sure, you won't go racing in it, but when the top speed of any ship in Star Citizen is over 800 meters per second minimum, the top speed really means very little. All it tells me is that once the developers get their heads out of their elegant asses, you might start seeing some major movement changes. So why am I even bothering explaining and describing this stuff? Well, I guess unless the developers think that that ass is too comfortable to get out of. Well, in that case, even this thing will be doing zoomer fights. But now that all aside, it's time for the best segment of all. How big of a sucker you are! So it costs $110. $110. More than twice as expensive as the cheapest package, but with artificial status to justify its price. Well, if you're buying it now, you're certainly being very stupid, as everyone's got one for free. But even in the future, do you know how many good games you could buy for $110? Like one Call of Duty. Hey, at least that piece of shit will have slave blood all over it, and it will be playable with multiplayer that works. And maybe a single player too. But on a serious note though, even if Yamix didn't think that buying ships and how they're sold in Star Citizen community being equivalent to slapping old ladies for their pension, do you really want a big ship that's okay capable, but the most boring thing imaginable? Are you this fucking bored that you have to buy anything that Chris Roberts squeezes out between his cheeks? Even in Star Citizen alone, aren't there better options? Fuck, not to mention my own Patreon that is 110 times better than this one spaceship. But you know, that's just me saying it. Link down below. Overall, if I'm frank, the ship on the first glance is massive and thus automatically gets some coolness factors, but when you get used to the scale, what's left is boring shapes, bad visibility, and cramped-in sides for the crew, and pretty disappointing performance. As for until the rebalance, of course. Who knows? Much like everything else, one day I might wake up and just see that fucking thing turned into a pumpkin. Well, at least at that point it'd be good for something. Otherwise, it's simply a space bore. Ah! Wow! Yeah! Woo! Bravo! Fucking piece of shit! Are you fucking kidding? Goddamn piece of shit! Fuck off! Wow! Oh, you fucking son of a bitch!